I would like to break down the tips that I have from the learnings that I had on how to actually
తనకి తప్పకుండా జనాలు లైక్ వాళ్ళ కోసం he does things and makes their life better అన్నమాట. It doesn't make any sense. Daily happiness. So first of
Hi guys, welcome back to Kaburlu with Rajiv. Today in this episode I would like to talk about a game-changing thing that helped me as a creator and writer, which is communication skills and speaking in English. I would like to break down a few things that have worked for me and things that I've learned. So this is something that I'm planning to do. Talking to the camera has not been a friend of mine. So I still struggle with it, and sometimes I find it extremely hard to speak to the camera. Sometimes the words don't come out, sometimes I freeze in front of the camera. It has not been a cakewalk for me so far in this journey as a creator with respect to speaking to the camera or improving my skills as a communicator. So this is something that has been troubling me and something that I'm constantly learning and improving. And recently when one of my subscribers has asked me to do a video on this, I was like, yeah, this is something that I can do. This is something that I've faced and something that I've learned in my journey. So I want to do it and make it a point where I can help someone from the learnings that I've had as a creator so far. So I hope this video will help you. These are all the things that are coming from my experience as a writer and a creator. So please feel free to add your own thoughts and suggestions, and if you have any tips that can work for somebody else, please feel free to comment. So yeah, without much further ado, let's dive into it to understand why I'm trying to do this and how I started with my journey, and later I'll share my tips on how you can improve your skills as a speaker or as someone who wants to communicate things from their heart to the people around you. Let me tell you a little about my journey as a creator. I've been studying English since I was in kindergarten, but I've always wondered why I can't speak so confidently out into the camera or outside in English. So this has been a constant struggle, but the thing is, we never had the opportunity to go out and do these things, and some of it was our mistake, some of it was our schooling and all the conditions that we are in back in India. So I think majority of you might also be facing this thing where we've learned English all our lives, but when it comes to speaking to the camera or speaking to someone else, we feel a little bit underconfident. We can't seem to completely articulate what we want to say. So this is one of the reasons why I am planning to do this and why I'm doing this right now. In my journey as well, I've been struggling to talk to the camera. It's been a learning curve, and I'll try and add clips from the past where I've been speaking to the camera and fumbling a lot, freezing in front of the camera, trying to say something and instead saying something else altogether. So these are all part of the journey where you are trying to understand and learn what you want to say. So let's see how this goes. I'm trying to record this in a park, and it's new for me, and this is something that I'm planning to do, like experiment on a lot of things. So yeah, with respect to doing things or speaking confidently or speaking in general, you have to be ready to understand and accept that mistakes are part of this journey. Always feel free to do mistakes instead of trying to be perfect and trying to make it 100% right all the time. Because whenever you are in the journey where you are making mistakes here and there, you have a scope to improve on certain things where you are making the mistakes. So this is something you have to keep in mind. If you're going for being perfect all the time, you sometimes miss out on things that you think that you already know, but it happens so that we are not all that good at communicating. So this is something that I've learned, because I've planned to be or tried to be a perfect speaker on the camera, but it never happens because this is something that is not natural to us. So when it's not natural, the key thing is to practice. practice on how to get the confidence right, on how to speak the words correctly, how to enunciate, and then how to improve the diction. There are certain ways to say certain words and how to emphasize on what. So these are the things that we learn as we practice, as we confidently try to practice our skills more than thinking about the output. So always feel free to make mistakes and then learn how to improve on those things instead of trying to make the perfect thing out there on the internet.
Alright, now we are at my desk setup. So let's talk about or break down the tips from my learnings on how to improve your communication skills with respect to talking to the camera or speaking online. Tip number one, clarity is key. Make sure you are speaking each word clearly. There should be clarity in what you speak and how you speak. Learn how to enunciate your words. Especially when you're speaking in English, your pronunciation matters a lot. So don't rush, take your time, and patiently say all the words that you want to say in a clear way. Take a lot of pauses so that people can understand what you're trying to say. For pronunciation, you can watch maybe TEDx videos where you can understand how the speakers are trying to speak in a particular way to get across some points that they want to make or to emphasize on something that they clearly want people to notice. So these kind of things you should be first understanding how they are doing, and then you can learn to do it in your own speech. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. Tip number two, practice makes progress. Speaking isn't about being perfect. In order to speak perfectly, you have to learn how to speak perfectly. Try recording yourself in front of a mirror. Put up a camera and speak to the mirror version of you as if you are saying something to them. It's always about how clearly you're trying to say something to the opposite person. So when you consider the mirror version of you as someone you're talking to, it feels like a conversation and not just like you're telling it to a huge crowd or something. But the basic part of whatever you're trying to convey should be like a conversation so that the other person will understand what you're trying to say. So when you're trying to record yourself, you'll feel cringed about it in the beginning, but after a few videos you'll recognize that you've made some progress in the way how you speak, in the way you emphasize on certain words, and how you tell a particular story when you are used to doing it frequently. So always try to practice this in front of a mirror first, and then with time you'll get the hold of your language and how you want to say certain things. So try that. I've done that, and I'll put up a video somewhere where I've been learning and practicing these things over a course of time. So this is something that you have to get used to it in order to get rid of the shy feeling that you get, or the sense of fear that you have in your head while you're speaking. That will go away when you try to do this. Tip number three, knowing your audience. So whenever you're in a particular meeting, or when you're speaking to a camera to make a video to a lot of people, or when you're just speaking at a meeting outside, you're talking to someone online or just a friend. So you have to know who your audience is first. Like, what kind of a modulation that do I need to have when I'm speaking to so and so person? Or do I need to be loud? Do I need to be simple, straight to the point? Do I need to have a so and so tone? So just imagine that the camera is your friend and try talking to the camera in such a way that you want your audience to understand you. This is for you to make a point across to the opposite person in a way that they have to receive the information. Okay, so always keep in mind that you are talking with the person or to the person and not at the person. So when you are talking at the person, it means like you are saying something and you want them to listen to you instead of trying to have a conversation with the other person. This is going to be a useful trick for you to understand that the camera is your friend or the person opposite to you is a friend. So when you're thinking of making a video, think of it as someone who's on the other side of the camera and who's listening to what you say and understand. So think of it in that manner, and that way you can make it a point where the other person will understand what you're saying in a very decent manner, like a conversation kind of thing, instead of why is he telling it to me like that, or why is she telling it to me this way. So this kind of an approach will be useful for you to understand how you should put across your point. Tip number 4, don't be afraid of the silence. Always try to pause when you are trying to make a point. A pause will ensure that whatever point you are trying to make is important and is understood by the other person. If we are rushing into telling things whatever we wanted to do, the information that you want to pass is obviously transferred, but it hasn't been taken in by the receiver. The impact that you have when you pause for certain moments, when you pause to say that this is the important point that I'm trying to tell, this is the point I want to make to you so that you understand it better, this is what I want you to understand from whatever I'm saying. So when those kind of pauses happen, you understand that yeah, the reader is telling something. So this you can understand while also watching the TEDx videos or some important interviews where the person who's trying to tell you the information pauses for a slight bit to give you the point that he wants to make in a way that he wants you to understand. So it's something really important to be adding into your repertoire as a speaker online or offline. So always think of having to pause at the right time to make your point clear. Tip number 5, feedback is your friend. Always try to ask people around you about how you're talking, or how you're making your conversation, or how you are making your videos, and the way you speak, whether it is being understood by them in the way that you intend to or not. Because constructive feedback from anyone, people who are close to you or people who don't even know you, will always help you to become a better person, will give you the scope to understand what you're trying to say and what the other person is trying to understand. So always ask for feedback more from the people who you know, because they can give you a clear understanding of what they understood and what you want to clearly mention it to the other person. So asking for feedback will always be a good thing, of course, if it is constructive and not trolling or something. So when you get the feedback, it will help you identify the weak spots and you can work on them while you are practicing your speech or your writing or whatever. I love the fact that some of my videos get those kinds of feedback, and I keep in mind and just reiterate things that were shared with me, and I use them for my betterment in the next video. Tip number 6, body language matters. Every single time you make a speech or you're talking or making a video or anything, your body language matters as much as what you're trying to say. So the words will go into the listener's ears, but at the same time, how you're telling those words will make a heavy impact on what the other person is taking. So the use of your hands when you're talking to the other person, or when you're talking on a stage, your body language, like your smile, how your shoulders are, how relaxed you are on the stage or while you're speaking on the camera. So these kinds of things are picked up by the receiver unconsciously, but when you do it correctly, they take your information pretty well. So the use of body language in a correct way will always enhance your information or how you say your information. So this is something you always have to keep in mind, to work on it, to maintain the eye contact with the camera, which is something that I am learning, because this is something constantly running in my head, that when I am trying to speak, I'm looking at myself in the camera instead of looking at the lens. So it's something that I'm getting used to, because I'm not used to talking directly to the camera. But yeah, life is always a learning curve, and this is something that I am working on right now, on how to look at the camera lens and not myself. So yeah, these are the things that you have to keep in mind. So yeah, I think that's it for the tips. Maybe we'll do a slight location change again.
There you go. My journey, my struggles as a creator, and my tips and learnings. So hopefully if it helps you, please feel free to write a comment, and if you have any other suggestions, please share your thoughts as well. And if anyone has any new suggestions that I can make videos on, please write to me at my email id that will be in the description, or just put down a comment so that I can try and make something that will be useful for all of us. And so let's end this video on a good note. Thank you. Please remember that it is the progress that we need, not the perfection. So just try to be a good human on the internet. Thank you. Bye.